right quick.
I can take one home, write all my scripts, I go and visit.
I was thinking of the blue one still sitting down. Yeah. Mhm. Yep,
All
right.
right, I'll call the meeting of the Wyoming County IDA here on June 13th, 2:30. And I'll ask Scott if you would start the roll call so we can establish a quorum.
Sure, Scott Gardner, IDA staff.
Robin Marshallik, IDA staff.
Jennifer Tishka, IDA staff.
Jim Pierce, also IDA staff.
Jim Rutowski.
Doug Burwiner, board member.
Mark Gadd, board member.
Becky Ryan, board member. Nicole Hastings, board member.
Joe Gozowski, board member.
Kevin Zander, IDA counsel.
We have a quorum. Everybody has been given a copy of the board minutes from the April 11th meeting. Excuse me. I may have said June 13th before, and I meant to say, this is the 13th of June, is it not? Okay.
Yes.
Getting back to the minutes of April 11th, are there any additions, corrections, or discussion?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We also had the financial report dated April 30, and I'll ask Robin to give us the highlights of that, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So we have 2 months to go through here now, so I'll start with April. Cash on hand at the beginning of April is $110,855. Invested funds and CDs is $2,107,990. We brought in interest earned on CDs. We're doing really well with that, as you can see, for this, usually we don't get that much, but this year we're doing well. We had conference training and our lease expenses, some legal fees and other regular monthly incidentals. We had our wages, and we ended up the month with $79,482 in cash in bank, and then in our invested funds, $2,131,297. And then on the back side is May, and of course we started what we just ended in April. We brought in a little bit of the interest earned on CDs, and we had our regular monthly expenses. We ended up the month with $200,781 in cash and $1,986,997 in invested funds and CDs.
Is there much of an increase on interest rates?
They've been pretty stable.
They're stable, yeah.
Our highest is 2.95 right now.
CD rates are 5, a little under 5.
And then on the last page, you see our budget. We're about 45% of the way through the year, so you can see our percentages where we're at.
Any questions, discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the report.
I would make a motion to approve the financial report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What's it really? It's gonna be-
No, Mr. Chairman, there's nothing in there for item 2C in terms of the board packet. That is a 5-year memorandum of understanding that we have with the IDA and the BAC, and it's primarily for administrative services of the BAC. And it just expired, and so we would ask the board if they would consider renewing it for another 5 years. And if there's any discussion about adjusting the fee, then I guess now would be the time to do that.
Well, let me start the easy way. Does anybody have any objection or discussion or questions?
No. Jim, is it appropriate to adjust the fee? I mean, this has been a fee for 5 years. Last I knew, things gone up. in price
They
in
have
5
gone up.
years.
Yes, I think it would warrant a small adjustment. It's up to the
Got a
board.
number in mind?
I would keep it under 100, maybe something like 90.
Good enough. I'll make a motion to amend the memorandum of understanding with BAC for, to increase it from 75 to 90,000.
Any further discussion? If not,
And continue that with a 5-year?
5 years.
5-year term? Okay.
Well, you know, maybe we should build an escalator into this. I don't, you know, I mean,
That's an
what's your,
Can always be amended later.
It could be amended any year, yeah.
5 years is a long time to go without,
I know, but you
just a
could,
blanket number.
Well, you could knock it down to 3 years if you'd like. I mean, if that gives any comfort level. There's nothing magic about 5.
There isn't?
No.
No magic?
what's,
I don't-
Do you foresee any significant increases?
No, not really. I mean, the BAC obviously doesn't have any staff, and we're incurring more administrative costs because we're now going to be administering the micro enterprise grant. We administered all the loans through the BAC. And so I think it warrants the $90,000, whether or not anything else is going to pop up. I mean, we're going to continue to chase grant dollars through it. So that would be the only other thing.
You considering it 3 years instead of 5?
Three would be fine.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to
3 years at 90?
make it 3 years at 90,000.
I'll second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, executive director's report.
Yeah, I just had a quickly let you know what some of the things that I'm working on. You know, it's been no surprise that some of our economic development activity has slowed down with the, you know, the high price of lending for some of our projects. A lot of them are stuck in the pipeline. But things are starting to loosen up. For what reason, I don't know, but it's always a good thing. So I have been working with a company from Buffalo who's interested now in the API buildings and arcade that are currently vacant as of the end of last month. It's a metal fabricating business. The low-cost electricity is really attractive to them. The property's also been listed with Pyramid Brokers out of Buffalo, and I had a long conversation with 2 other brokers about the program, about the buildings, and they just got it listed, so they're going to be sending out some building specifications. They also have some prospects interested in the building as well, so I don't think they're going to be vacant for very long. The challenge will be API has a 7-year lease still remaining on the buildings, on 2 buildings. And so either somebody will have to come in and assume the lease or they'll have to convert it to a sale, which most people prefer a sale. So either option is on the table according to the brokers. I continue to work with TPI and Arcade. They want to put in 2 more robotic cells. If you've ever been into the aluminum casting operation over there, they cast these aluminum parts and they come out and they have all these like extra pieces that come out of the press, you know, little fringes that need to be trimmed off and polished. They actually have robots now that do a lot of that. And they have one robot that's been doing that for about a year. It works really well. So they want to add 2 more of those units. So we're bringing the state in to see what they can do to help finance that with some grant dollars. At the same time, they're going to be expanding the building. They have a whole group of new engineers that have been brought on and they don't have any place to house them. So there's going to be a building expansion there as well. So we're working with them on an IDA application. We'll see how big the application gets in terms of capital, whether it's going to net them any tax savings or not, but some encouraging news from them. Yesterday, Robin and I met with Hillcrest Industries over in Attica. As you know, this board approved a inducement package for the warehouse about 3 years ago. They are now building another warehouse, about half the size of the original one. So this will be about 15,000 square feet. We anticipate they're going to come in with the application from the IDA for that as well. And this will be on the coating side of the business, meaning the where they do the sandblasting and the painting and all that stuff with the heavy equipment that they paint over there. So that will be that side of the equation. So the son and the mother are essentially running the business now. Dan Kirsch is not involved too much anymore, and eventually the business will be turned over to the son and his wife, and they were there yesterday and met with us. But very young, very ambitious, and they I think they're doing really well, because when we talked about what's necessitating this, and they said, we just got so much work, we can't handle it all. So they're very encouraging sign over there. Even the glass beads that they make, they can't keep up with that work as well. I also, actually just this morning, Robin and I met with AES, which is the company that owns the wind turbine projects in Eagle and the town of Weathersfield. They got a repower grant from, or allocation of power from NYSERDA. So they're going to be repowering and decommissioning the old turbines in those towns and replacing them with new turbines, fewer of them. In fact, we did a head count of the current turbines in those two towns. I think there's 126. Is that what we came up with? So the new turbines will be a third of that. There'll be about 42 of those. They're going to be taller and bigger, but they're going to be more productive. They're going to be in the same footprint in the communities where they are. The sites where they're going to be putting them aren't going to be in the same foundation, because the foundation won't work for these bigger turbines. But they're going to be based on all the data they've collected from all the wind mapping that they've done since these things have been in existence. So the new turbines are going to go where the strongest wind is. So they're meeting with landowners, and this is going to be treated just as a new project. There's going to be two applications, one for each town, just like last time. There's going to be new host agreements. There's going to be new leases with landowners. So these are just like starting all over again with a wind farm, basically, of 42 turbines. So our fees are going to be, the typical 1%, like we've always had. And then we indicated to them that kind of the unwritten policy of the IDA for inducements has always been that there needs to be that 80-20 split on the dollar value per megawatt. So meaning 80% of whatever the dollar value is. On the old turbines, it was $8,000. So 80% of that went to the host agreement in the town, because they're the ones that have to deal with these on a daily basis. And then the 20% goes to the pilot, that is then divided among the other taxing jurisdictions. So it's exciting to see these things. I mean, these two towns, we don't anticipate a lot of opposition, because they've been looking at them for a long time now. They're going to be a little taller. They're going to be spread out more, so they're not going to be as condensed. And I think it'll be a nice project. So they want to start the application process right away, and they have the gentleman we met with this morning is already working on the host agreements. That's his responsibility, and the applications for the local permitting and the IDA application.
Will the other turbines continue operating, or will they be depleted?
Everything is going to be taken down eventually. They'll continue to operate till they get them replaced, but they're going to decommission all the old ones.
They've had a guy up on West Hill counting birds for 3 months. Seriously.
I see cars stopped all the time in front of them, and I'm wondering what
Yeah,
they're
there's a
doing.
guy, I go up that road maybe sometimes 4 times a day. There's a guy there with binoculars. And I asked Mike Roach, he said he's counting birds. Satisfy the environmental, everybody says there's 1,000 dead birds at the bottom of the thing. Well, I think that's what they're doing, is covering themselves, so.
The decommissioned ones,
Mhm.
there's a lot of concrete in each one of them.
Right.
What do we know about that?
I don't know what's going to be involved with the decommissioning. I do know that they're working on plans to try to recycle the materials as much as they can with the turbines themselves. With the old ones that were taken down in Weathersfield, I think they dynamited them right out of the ground, so I don't know. We weren't privy to any demolition plans that they have at this point.
We don't know what agreement them towns made then.
Yeah, there's a decommissioning bond, every town, everybody has one.
Yeah, but I remember back then, they tried to come up with, we guarantee we'll take 3 foot of concrete out. We know that'll work. What really kind of blocked it off was, I hate to say, I completely pushed. No, you put 500 yards of concrete, you take 500 yards out. And that wasn't, they didn't like that sound at all. But it helped work well because we didn't get them.
Well, as Doug indicated, the decommissioning bond is actually with the towns where they're
Yeah.
located, so we haven't been made privy
Yeah,
to
it has nothing to do with,
the idea.
it goes with the host community agreement with the
Yeah.
town. And whatever the town agreed to, that's what it's gonna be.
I
And each town could be
understand that.
different.
And I would hope the town's kept up with the change in ownership, many changes that they have in ownership.
Right.
Yeah, fine.
The other renewable project that is gaining momentum again after a long delay is the Sun East Solar Project over in Castile. That project we approved back in, I think it was 2020, for a 20 megawatt project, and the IDA approved it. It sat there for a while, and then subsequently the capital cost doubled. So it went from a $20 million capital project to a $40+ million capital project. We took the liberty of doing a new public hearing for it over in the town of Castile. And we did that last year. So
How many hundred people were there, Jim?
actually just your wife, she helped us get set up, and that was about it.
Must be, it was a non-factor then.
No. So they are ready to go, and they have all their permits and everything. So I think you're going to see some activity. They're probably going to wait. There's some land clearing that needs to be done, so they're not going to start that till probably November. That's when the time period opens up where it's safe to remove some trees where the long-eared northern bat might be habitating.
Uh-oh.
It's an endangered species, and so there's a certain time where you can't touch any of the woods because they may be.
Do we know,
Go say, I
Will
got
these
three,
be-
I got 20
these
apples.
newer turbines or the old style, do we know that yet?
This is a solar project. that we're
I'm
talking
sorry,
about.
solar.
Yeah.
Okay, you said that.
So that's where we are with Sun East, and the same company. By the way, they're hooked up with a new company called Cordelio Power, and so Cordelio was also in on the call that we had, and they are also they had purchased and acquired the solar project in the town of Bennington, which we approved even longer ago than Sun East. And they're reviving that project as well. That also is a 20 megawatt project. The IDA approved it. There were community host agreements in place. They are going to be amending their application to us because that project, because it's been sitting so long, also will probably double in its capital costs. And that was at the time a $23 million project. So I bumped into the town supervisor in Bennington over at the Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday. I suggested she pull out her community host agreement and get it sharpened up. So they claim they're going to move on that. They submitted a new site plan to the town. I kind of gave them a heads up of the temperature of some of the anti-solar stuff that's going on over there, and they're well aware of what's going on, so they're pretty confident that this is going to move forward the way they hope to. So,
That would double our fees then as well.
exactly, yeah. And with our new policy now is that before we issue them a sales tax exemption, we get 20% of our 1% fee and 20% of our council fees. And the council will be happy to hear this, that I reiterated to the project developer that council has not been compensated for his previous work on this project in Bennington. So it was so noted and will be taken care of. So.
Thank you, Jim.
The other project I wanted to talk about quickly, there's a business in Castile I've been working with. It's They want to build a new building. It's considered a retail project by, in its nature, which would make it ineligible for IDA. But some of the investigation that we've been doing about businesses, in particular retail businesses in Castile, is that Castile is designated as a highly distressed area, meaning you can make special circumstances for projects in an area like that. And so this company, which is now currently working on their numbers, are going to give me their numbers real soon. And then we'll take a look at that as a possible IDA project, given the, the status of the community. And so we'll go from there. There'll be some other things that council has advised us on to make sure that we dot all our I's and cross all our T's on it. But should be a nice little project for a long-standing business that's been there. Myself and a representative from Empire State Development met with Prestolite. They had a whole group of new leaders over there. They kind of cleaned house. Not very many of them are aware that there's 2 grants that have been awarded by Empire State Development for their project with the Cummins engine. And so we sat down with a new group of leaders and let them know about that. So they're well aware of that. And they also indicated that down the road, there's going to be some significant projects they're going to be working on in terms of buildings. And, there may be some demolition of some old buildings that will be replaced with new buildings, and just trying to modernize the facility a little bit more. So again, all encouraging things.
Parts of that plant go back to 1950.
Yeah.
So been there a long time.
Yeah, that's what he said. But, they got a very aggressive, very passionate leadership team there now, and
Get them all out of town then.
yeah. So it sounds very promising. I also met with a local builder developer who kind of wants to branch out and do more than just like building projects. And so we had a brainstorming session where we talked about what are Wyoming County's needs, and housing obviously came up. So he's exploring options to begin looking at maybe housing development as something he might want to get into. So there's people out there that we're trying to encourage to look at housing as a way of helping with our economic development efforts here. This will be interesting for Doug. Ice is Nice is an arcade, who many people don't know of. It's a project we did years ago. We encouraged them to land on a brownfield site, which was an old asphalt plant.
Yep.
They cleaned it up, built a small building, and they manufactured these large blocks of ice that are like 3 foot tall, 2 foot wide.
Yep.
And they sell those blocks of ice, which are crystal clear, to restaurants and chefs, and then they sculpt them into something for special events. And this business has been around for a long time. They also do cubed ice and things of that nature. But they have recently decided that they don't need the sculptures, and so they have purchased their own CNC machine, and they are going to be doing their own sculptures with this CNC machine, which will be located inside the freezer. Not a job I would want. So they bought the machine and then realized the freezer wasn't big enough, and so then they had to buy a new freezer. And then the electrical system is not big enough to handle it. So we've been working with them trying to get everything in a row. We talked about some financing. I think they're going to try to bootstrap it on their own. But I know Doug called me one time over the weekend when one of the restaurants ran their ice machine died, and he said, "What's the guy's name? Number for Brian Selmer from Ice is Nice."
Yeah. I've known him for 40 years.
He's actually got property in the town of East Arcade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I did ask him, I said, "You got any extra machines that you keep in arcade for when an ice machine conks out?" And he said, "Yeah, I got a couple units. Anytime you need something, let me know." So if you need an ice machine at a moment's notice, I got the hotline for you.
Dad was in the business for probably 50 years before him.
Yeah, and now his son is taking over it, and his son is a state trooper. Anyways, he wants to do a kind of a ribbon cutting, grand opening thing once he gets all done. So
The best part of this whole deal, Jim, is they sell bagged ice, and they're 20-pound bags. They're this long for $3, or 2 for $5. And it got 3 big freezers. It's, help yourself, you know.
Honor system, yeah.
Really?
It's like a throughway in and out of there on a weekend. They fill these freezers up and he comes on Saturday to refill them and Sunday to refill them.
Maybe all these businesses that are existing, you don't hear about.
Nice thing was he cleaned up, it didn't even cost us anything or the county anything to clean up a brownfield. He did it all on his own. You know, we got him all the resources to help, but
And it's on Genesee Road, which is one of the main routes to New York City. Seriously, it's almost as busy as 28. It is. There's one car right after another.
Also, I want to let the board know, we did close, under the BAC, we closed on the Dell Collective loan in Genesee Falls, and she's busy at work on that. Hopes to be open by August, believe it or not. So she's very, very ambitious. So Kevin's firm did a nice job getting that whipped around in fast order for her. She was very happy with that. And the other thing is I have a possible gain loan application, a second one for Keem Dairy in Java. They are a member of Upstate Milk Co-op, and the milk co-op is kind of pushing them to have more on-site storage for their milk. And so they're buying a larger tank, and Bank of Tompkins Bank is going to be financing the building. And they're going to be looking to us to help finance the tank that needs to be put in there. So we'll be coming to the BAC board possibly with a loan application in that project. Just quick update on the MK Brownfield cleanup project. If you've been by there, you see there's a lot of activity over there in Arcade on Church Street. The buildings are being demolished and disposed of properly because they're all contaminated with asbestos. I was sent some photos recently from Labella, who's our environmental engineer on it. Things are looking really well. They claim, Labella does, that these guys will be done by the end of July. So I've been working with council and Kevin on getting our developer under the designated developer agreement ship shape so that we can get this property in his hands so he can take it that next step into the brownfield cleanup program, so we can get rid of the petroleum tanks and the rest of the contamination that will not be done with this grant from the EPA. But things are going.
Buildings down is going to be a big.
It'll be a godsend for a lot of people. And ironically, I have not had one complaint from the school district, from a resident. I mean, we laid out the rules early on with these guys and said, this is your truck route. These are ours. Stay away from this road on Church Street during school drop off and school pickup. And they complied with all of that. So there hasn't been one word from anybody. So
They're right next to a waterway. The DEC watching them pretty close.
yeah, I mean, Labella's on site every day too, because it's a controlled asbestos cleanup. So there's air monitoring going on there constantly, and they're watering down debris. They're saving some stuff, you know, the blocks can be ground and used as fill material. They're taking that out, so that's not going into a landfill. They're saving out metal, and that's, you know, they're salvaging that, recycling that. So there's some significant recycling that's going on there as
And
well.
one contractor doing both projects.
One contractor doing the whole thing. It's a company called Metro Environmental. They're out of Lockport. But so far, so good. They've been doing a nice job.
How big is that contract? Do you know, it's $1 million project?
No, for the disposal and cleanup, we're in the neighborhood of 380,000.
I think it came in less than we thought it was.
It did. The only other thing I thought might be interesting to the board, and I threw it on there, is one as a business center project we've been working on. Locally, we had this restaurant down here that's called Shenanigans on Route 19. We made a loan to Shenanigans to open the restaurant. He subsequently closed the place, decided he was going to open up a new pizzeria in Attica next to where Meisner's used to be. He came to the business center for a loan. The loan was approved contingent upon him making the business center whole on his loan here in Warsaw. So in stepped another restaurant individual from Silver Lake to take over. And the deal was he was going to buy the equipment from the owner of Shenanigans. Did not quite pay for all of it yet. And so
He's supposed to be paying today.
today is supposed to be the day.
He's supposed to be today.
But in order, there was a small gap to make this thing happen. So the business center stepped in and gave a $10,000 loan to make this thing. So they can make the owner of Shenanigans whole. He can pay off his loan to the business center. We can grant the new loan to the deli in Attica, and he can open up his doors over there. So sometimes the smallest projects turn into interesting stories. Let's just leave it at that.
Interesting people involved.
This is true.
This is true.
So that's my report.
Just a question on the Attica project, which I go by every morning. There's the original one right on the corner, which was a pizza. And then there was a more elaborate restaurant next door and an old welding facility.
Mhm.
Is he gonna do both of those?
No, he's not doing where Meisner's was right on the corner. He's not involved with that building at all. That building is still available and for sale by Sam Campanella. But he bought the building next door.
And that's where he's gonna operate.
He's going to operate out of there. There will be 2 drive-through windows. He's going to be selling ice cream as well, and pizzas and subs. And, he's built up, the business center loaned him for the market down in Wyoming as well. And that he's doing well with that place down there. So it's going to be the same pizza recipe and things of that nature. I think he'll do all right once he gets open. That's my report.
This cattle, maybe I should know this, and we talked about it possibly. Cattle scan company, Toronto-based,
Mhm.
and you said you're pushing to get them to do more work here.
Yes.
Now, it's a Toronto-based company.
Mhm.
We got a $500,000 grant.
Right.
Is that grant American money?
It's
They do enough to work here?
New York State money, and it came through the Grow New York program. And as an award winner, they are required to move to New York State for at least a minimum of 1 year. And so they haven't done that yet, but the company reached out to me the other day and said, we're looking for a sales rep. So I know they're making inroads here and they're trying to get set up. So
You're working to get them to locate here if possible.
ideally,
That's my question.
they don't make the product, and I think I've described it before. It's like a large capsule, if
Yeah.
you will, like the old cow magnets. If you've ever been on a dairy farm where you give them to the cows and it collects the hardware, same type of concept, and it stays in the cow and it monitors their health information, and it's all electronic. So if anybody wants a sales job selling these little things, to,
We got a cattleman right here.
I'll think about it.
Room for a couple more hats.
Let us turn to 4A.
Yeah, it's been, I guess, brought to our attention, and I guess we've been aware of it at the IDA as well, with the frequent turnover of assessors at the community level. There's often people taking those positions that aren't familiar with pilots and how to build pilots. And so oftentimes things are billed incorrectly, and it's causing some issues with the county real property tax office as well. So we decided to sit down and talk about it. Becky was at the meeting, the county administrator, myself, Robin, real property director, Scott. So we just kicked around some ways of improving how to better communicate with the assessors about what they owe for pilots. And, I scribbled a few notes about, have them let us know when a pilot bill is paid. So We know that, because if somebody's not paying their pilot bill, we have the right as a board, I'm not a board member, but we have the right to revoke their IDA inducements. And it's a way of holding them accountable, but we don't know if these bills are being paid. So, I mean, that's one of the things. The other thing is they want better notice when a pilot gets terminated and when it goes back on the tax rolls. Even though we send them certified letters, it just, sometimes it ends up on the supervisor's desk, it doesn't make it to the assessor's desk or the clerk's desk. And
It's mainly the clerk, really, that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not the assessors.
Right.
It's the clerks or the ones
And
that
there's
do
a
the
turnover with the
invoices.
clerks,
Yep.
and some of them are just, most of them are, well, they're all part-time.
yeah.
Some of them just one day a week.
So I just wanted to let the board know, if you hear anything where there's some, concerns about IDA pilots and they're all goofed up and whatever, it's just, we're just trying to streamline things at the local level so there's less confusion going on out there and things are getting billed correctly.
But the way it's working now, our projects have to report to me at year end for what they paid for the year and pilots and whatnot. But the problem with that is I'm getting their information in January, February of one year, and they're giving me what they paid last January, February. So if it's wrong, they're already billed the year that we're in wrong again, and they have, so then there's, it creates a domino effect as far as, having things not being billed right. And I can catch it and let them know, but then they have to change 2 invoices, so, yeah, and of course I don't catch everything because I don't know their tax rates. I don't know some of the stuff that goes on in their municipalities. So if their tax rate is wrong, I don't know that, until, the next year as well, so. But if the clerks send me their invoices for the pilots as they send them out, or even send them to me for review before they send them out, we can all be on the same page as far as what year they're in, percentage of what they're supposed to be billing as far as the new assessment on the project. And like I said, I can't always verify their tax rate, but that's on them, for the most part,
But just to have a process in place that's consistent across the board.
Yeah.
Like a checklist for the town clerks, because like I said, they're very, very part-time,
Yeah.
most of them.
Is that similar how they're doing it in other communities? In
Um,
other counties?
Well, some IDAs actually do their own billing, so they'll bill them, but that gets cumbersome too, because again, the tax rates and all, things changing, and I'm not in the municipality's office and, know what's going on either, so there will be stuff missed. But it also creates a lot more, work and more area for errors, so.
One of the common problems is that they'll do a reval and then they'll adjust the rate. And then so they'll bill the inappropriate amount based on that.
And there's been a lot of them because of the market.
So it's a ongoing process for us to improve the efficiency of that. So I just want to let the board know that we are working on that. If anybody know of any clerk in any town or village that has any questions, have them give us a call.
We did hold a meeting in January
Yep.
and had most of the clerks and, we invited the supervisors as well, but most of the clerks did come, school administrators or, the treasurers that wanted to be a part of it. They came and we did go over it. Sarah Lippincott from the real property came in and we both went over our parts of the pilots and how it works. So we're hoping, we came up with an idea of putting together a chart or a schedule that the assessors can help us with as well, because if they change the assessment, we need to know that, but they can help and send it out to the clerks so that we're all on the same page in the same year, billing the same for, the property billing, what they're supposed to be billed. So we're hoping that will work.
I think it will. I thought it was a good meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to bring that to the board's attention.
4B is, I think everybody's aware of that, and most everybody's had a piece, or will have a piece of the cake, which is over there, and it was very well done. I thought it made a nice presentation for the IDA. The resolution was a little lengthy.
And
This guy wants to read it now.
Supposed to read it.
You did it.
I was doing happy hour, but anyway.
It's a two-pager if
Just
anybody
kidding.
needs it.
Scott did a great job.
Read
He
it.
says, how do you, shrink it down,
I know.
50 years of history into like a
You
proclamation?
did a
you know?
great job, yeah.
Not easy.
No, you gotta cover the history and the purpose and, well done, Scott.
Yeah.
We're picking on you, but very good.
Could we go quickly through under C, the legislative changes?
Yeah, I think there's been some things that went through as a result of the budget bill and have been brought to our attention that we want to share with the board. Council mentioned that we now have to live stream also our local development corporations meetings. So today's meeting will be a double feature. So, just so you're aware of that.
Is that as of now?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's effective as of May 20th.
Okay.
It includes, any local development corporation, so the business center also will have to follow the same.
Yep.
Rule. With the exceptions when we're dealing with a loan and the sharing of financial information.
You still have the opportunity to go into executive session, it's just a live streaming obligation.
So some of the other things, maybe council, I'd ask you to step in and share what some of your thoughts were.
Sure, there was one other bill that was approved with the budget, and it authorizes the authority's budget office to get additional information about IDA operations. Where are they gonna get that information? You're gonna get it from the staff, which means more work for the group here to comply with regulatory requirements. So, you already provide information into the Paris system. Apparently that wasn't enough.
Not good enough.
So that is a law that's been passed too. There's a couple pending pieces too you guys should be aware of that the governor has not signed,
Right.
but they could roll into the end of the year. So if the governor signs it before the 31st, it's law. But one of them would actually modify the composition of the board. Okay, and that would involve adding someone from labor and someone from the school district, whether it be superintendent or someone from the school board of the municipality. So that's something we're gonna have to watch. The timing is kind of critical on it because the law doesn't go into effect until 180 days after pen to paper. So if you're thinking about it from a reorg standpoint, right? Because I think you guys do reorganizations in January, right? That we're getting close to the end of that window, right? And you would just have to add 2 people onto the board, whatever the process is for doing that, whether that runs through the county legislature here. But those 2 people would be added on. You'd have 2 people at that point. When a seat becomes empty because of a term being termed off, those folks get to stay, and someone else of the board would have to step off. So, I haven't talked to Jim about this. I'm not even sure how we do it overall, but you should just be aware that the bill is out there. We'll track it. But I think there's a lot of IDAs looking at it and wondering why we need this, of course.
I know.
But it wasn't signed yet, so
I know, just passed both houses.
yes,
Because NISAC,
they
called
talked about
Robin
it, right?
yesterday, that's what I pulled up here. Yeah.
Mhm.
They, it's in their impact to counties.
Just
Right.
out of interest, does anybody have, I'm sure you do, a record of where everybody presently on the board is in their term? Because I know it was so casual in the past that people were serving after their term expired.
Yeah, we do have record of that. The most recently reappointed board member was Mr. Gazowski. So that wasn't very long ago, was it, Joe?
No, we don't call 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Yeah.
I don't call.
But they are 3-year terms, and
Mhm.
I don't know where the whole thing's going.
If you have to have these
We'll
2
see.
people,
It is, yeah. So, and here's the other limitation. Remember, it's, because of your enabling legislation, you can only have 3 to 7 board members. So that when those folks get put on, because you need to have them on your board, you eventually will go back down to 7, right? Based on terms rolling off. So once the term ends, that's how it would be implemented.
You can't
So
go to a 9-member board.
no, not without state legislative approval. So you'd have to go to Albany actually and get your enabling legislation amended.
So when it says that when the seat becomes vacant, that's just when their term ends?
Yes.
It's not necessarily that they elect to not be reappointed?
I think you
If
could
it
probably
changes.
read it both ways.
Yeah.
So
That's what
I
thought.
mean, I think once a seat is gone, like if a board member resigned, Robin,
Right,
right,
well,
that
that's
would
what I
be a
thought maybe that
situation
would be
where-
it.
like that's not even terming out, it's a vacant
Right.
seat. So-
That's what I was wondering, if it was vacant or if it was just the term ending, so, yeah.
And then the other thing is that one has to be from a local labor organization,
Correct.
and then one from a school board.
Does the local labor organization have to be in our county? Because I don't know.
These are,
CSEA.
Yeah, it'd be somebody from the union. I don't know if they would want it like from industrial. type
Well,
of
I mean,
union.
we got Martin Salt and Market Tubing,
Yeah.
as well. Those are
Town Highway
just-
Department,
Yeah.
It's very,
or else CSEA.
But I
Union, they're Teamsters. not
But I
CSEA.
didn't know if that would be it or if it would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't
I think
read
it
the-
probably qualifies. I mean, certainly, this is something to be thinking about, but we haven't really worked through any of the pieces.
I think the whole school district thing kind of stemmed out of the investigative post that we got stung with over a year ago, where
Yeah.
IDAs are stealing money from school districts
Right.
by doing IDA projects. And
Yeah, and remember, there was a bill pending, it never got through the
Exactly.
houses that would have taken away the IDA's ability to abate school taxes, right? Which would have, a significant impact on IDA projects, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
And maybe this is kind of the piece that comes back, right? Like, okay, here's a softer way to do it, is to have someone on the board who has school representation.
Yeah.
There are IDAs across the state, some already have school representation. The folks in Orleans have had a principal on their board forever. Like Carol's been there for a long time. So, and I think Erie County, they require it, someone from the unions, and they have a different roster and it's a much larger board. So, but, again, something to keep an eye on.
So as long as we're talking about good news, it wouldn't be right if we didn't get a annual FOIL request from our friends at Investigative Post. So they zinged us again for FOIL request, almost a year to the date from last year's. We were at the
Last
conference
year's
in
in Cooperstown.
Cooperstown, and it came again this year while we were in Cooperstown. They've done a story on several large law firms in terms of their billing and their billing amounts, and they're even tracking what contributions to political campaigns, all those sorts of things. So they have foiled us, asking us for transactional fees charged by council since the January of 2023. So we responded within the 5-day notice to let them know we received their FOIL request, and then we have up to 20 days to respond to that. And Kevin and his firm have been working on developing some information that we could get to them that'll satisfy their FOIL requests. But
make sure you put the ones where you weren't paid for as well.
Do they count, Jim? That's a great question. Send an
you
AR
get a
report.
credit, right, for that?
Yeah. No, it actually, they have, this FOIL request has hit every IDA through Monroe County. So everybody's gotten this. And, hey, look, I'm an open book. You want to see this stuff. This, to the extent the information in the entries is attorney-client privileged, then the agency has the ability to redact that information. And that's what really Jim and I are talking about in terms of responding, because it's a perfunctory request on otherwise. I mean, you guys have our bills, right? And here they are. You want to go look at them? We did the work. I'm okay with that.
I mean, we also have a standardized fee policy for council now too.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, if you have a transaction, here's what it is,
That's right.
So anyways, just a never ending,
Just trying to keep me busy, guys.
but anyways,
doing anything without having council approve something and see where it happens
Yeah.
a year or two, 5 years down the road.
I mean, the whole thing that really angers me is like, we're trying to do some good stuff here. And every time New York State keeps trying to knock us down, and it just gets very tiresome.
It's like, whenever there's a couple bad apples, everybody else pays.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's the end of our wonderful legislative updates.
You know what George Borrello said at the fair last year? Greatest obstacle to economic development and success in New York State is the state legislature. Remember when he said that?
Yeah, well, it's true.
No truer words.
All right, during the April meeting, I believe it was, we were discussing compensation, and I would like to propose a motion to go into executive session to continue that process.
I make that motion. Go ahead.
Do I have a second? All right, so if you're not in the inner sanctum, if you would step out. Voice.
Pretty big word.
Ken, the back line.
You didn't see the little green dots going.
Okay, I didn't look either, though, I have to say.
All right.
Oh, it's okay.
Mhm.
Just wanted to be clear on that.
All right, we are back. Do I have a motion that we, I don't have a motion that we return to come out of executive session?
Yeah,
So-
no, we.
We did that?
Yeah.
We have done
We
that,
just
yes.
needed the time for it.
Yeah, it was 3:46,
Yep,
Yep.
so we just need to get back on.
and we're on camera now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we're back in regular
All
session.
right,
All right,
we'll slow down here.
and I will just inform the people affected that we have made a decision.
Sure.
And I
We'll
will,
need a motion.
I will convey that to the director.
Or I should make a motion.
We're gonna have a motion
I
in
can,
session on it.
I can make the motion on it, that it was a salary. I make a motion that we do a compensation adjustment retro back to January 1st and then of 15%.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
That includes Scott.
Very generous.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting, July 11th, 2:30
Now, for the other meeting.
PM. I guess.
I can just, doesn't matter.
I will not be